remind me before class if at all I forget to record. So uh, sorry for yesterday. So I missed recording for some of the part. Um, okay. So today what we'll do is I'll just there is like one small part. So by now we should have clearly we should have all our tools. So simple. Yes, we just need a Visual Studio Code for our day-to-day if you want to build any use case. So what are our learnings every day we are learning, we can practice in our local system using this approach. And in office setup, or if you wanted to use the same activities we can do on the cloud. So for this, in the cloud account, once we log into it, one additional step what we have to do is we have to register our OData service. So if we are building applications on top of it, we can use Business Application Studio as well. That is also freely available. And for 365 days, we can use Business Application Studio. So in the cloud, we have the Business Application Studio. And from using Cloud Foundry account, we have to just activate it. So just I'll just get into it at the last. So this is just very simple step. So once we activate it, we can instead of installation, etc. So Omkar, you are facing issue with installation, right? So today I'll just show you Business Studio. If you are because of local restrictions, etc. in your laptop, if you are not able to do it, so you can use Chrome based. So it runs directly. ID runs on browser. So browser URL once you activate it, so you can directly use the Business Application Studio, so that any installation, these sort of issues will be taken care. And there are catches as well. If your bandwidth is low, then Business Studio will be a problem because it runs on the browser and based on bandwidth as well. So that is the only thing we have to take into account. And as long as we have one additional step we have to do today is to register our OData service. So which all service we want to use. Now we want to connect ES5 system for all our development. So we have to register this in our cloud platform. So I'll just show that step lastly. Only that step is left in this space, and then we are good to go. So this I'm just parking for now. So today's session, what we'll focus is so yesterday we have seen so why exactly frameworks are being preferred, right? So button we have in HTML, so simple way we are doing, and similarly in frameworks we have lots of button options. So they are giving us some flexibility. So we have seen in short a short a summary kind of like if you use a simple HTML tag called input and button, so it will be just simple button. Whereas if you use frameworks offer some different flavors of controls, which makes UI bit intuitive and easy to, instead of putting lots of efforts in building this particular control, we can directly consume. So that's what the benefit we understood in terms of framework benefit. The same applies to AngularJS. So AngularJS has its own controls. React.js has its own controls. All these are JavaScript based frameworks. So SAP's own framework is called as SAP UFF framework, and Google's own framework is called as AngularJS, and Facebook's backed framework is called as React.js. So all these are, respect to technology, leading technologies, they try to drive innovation in different forms. So ultimate goal is to build applications for web applications, so which are internet consuming applications. So that is the whole idea of frameworks, right? So let's go a bit back. So we'll just try to understand, is it really necessary to use only what we call frameworks, or without frameworks can be built? Yes, definitely we can build without frameworks. So the backbone, see, like we're saying, all these frameworks are built on top of this so-called HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. So we'll just try to understand in today and tomorrow success uh, how, what role they play. So if we understand the basic part first, then we can leverage what all we can do using frameworks. So if we do not understand the benefits of inbuilt, see, these all are by default. Every browser has these capabilities. We need not to have anything. If you if using these are like three beautiful simple concepts. See, one for giving nice look and feel, we use something called cascading style sheets. There's CSS. HTML5 are building blocks like the button, text tag, etc. These are like building blocks. And the logic to write the logic. See, on click of that button, show me a message called welcome. So then JavaScript does the job. So logic we use JavaScript. For cosmetic, we use CSS, and for constructing our building blocks, we use HTML. So we'll see one simple example today. So like see, or we'll try to see simple use case called digital resume. So we're going to prepare our resume using plain building blocks, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this just uses HTML, not much CSS as well. So idea is we are taking one use case called digital CV or CV, and digital CV nowadays how it looks is we need not to write long paras of information. All we have to provide is, say, this is my GitHub repository. You check out what all are my works are. You can follow my Twitter handle, you can follow my social following, etc. So these kind of things we have. So what we are trying to do is we try to build this simple digital CV use case using plain HTML. So that is our task which we will do now. So before going there, I'll just what I'll do is, so we'll talk a little bit about two aspects here. Okay. Um, One should be okay. So there are like lots of concepts. So what is the reference? So where should we look forward for this basics? So W3 schools is very clean. So from quite long, this is the only place which is very simple, and within less time you can actually understand each and every concept. I recommend to follow for today's exercise and tomorrow's exercise these three sections: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So each will be very plain and simple way. All the tags will be provided, and using this itself you can achieve what are the use case we are building it. So for any tags related, if you wanted to have a reference, you can follow this reference here. Okay. So only HTML, CSS, JavaScript section, only these three sections are useful. Anyhow, I'll be teaching beyond it. If you want, you can follow there as well. Okay. Okay. So this is about the way to follow. And okay, let me talk about, we'll just create. So do we need anything? No tool is required. If you have a notepad, plain notepad, you can open just a text file. So open a text file, just double click it, put simple tag called HTML. So simple web application, one simple web application, how it looks is this way. So if you put a plain simple HTML tag, all it HTML tag needs is a body. So we specify body, then our application, the whole page, web page, if it has a body, will suggest simple. What I'll do is I'll put a paragraph. We call it as P as a paragraph. So I'll just write, let's learn HTML. So all I have to do is save this file as save as in the desktop. You can save it as some welcome page, welcome dot. Make sure you're ending. See what a name you're giving. You have to end with .html. So that only browser will be able to identify only then as a HTML. Then select save as file type as all files. So save it on. I'm saving it on desktop. Now, if I try to see, this will become a browser page, nothing but a web page. So if I click on this, if you see, we got a nice output called let's learn HTML. So this is as simple. So plain old building blocks are always very easy to do. So all they have is basic custom tags. Now, okay. So this is about HTML. So let's add some more functions. So it's the same file. I can select it and I can open with again a notepad. So we'll give a nice head tag. So in this case, I'm giving a nice heading. So I wanted to give a heading. So what I do is I'll place one title. And so if you notice, every opening tag has a closing tag. So if I'm opening with H title, so I'll have slash title. So all these tags you'll find in the W3 reference. And here I'll give it as, this is my first web app. Okay. If not, I'll simply write as app. Okay. This, you have to notice one important aspect here. See, if here when it currently it's showing as welcome.html, so name of the file. Now if I reload this, if you see, now it shows as app. See, so if you see carefully, I'll just remove this part. So the whole browser is considered as a whole web page. So when we're considering as a web page, so this becomes the head, so the tab, browser tab, what are behind that, we call it as head, and this whole content we call it as body. So if you see from this top right corner, this will be measured as x-axis and y-axis. So very careful, just understand this concept, because CSS will be completely controlled based on this only. So this top corner is 0 0 axis, and if we want to apply any CSS etc., we count and measure based on this topmost corner from 0 to, if you want to place any tag in between at the center, as a plain language logic, if you have to write, we have to specify 0 to 50%. If you say 50%, 50% means exactly at the center the text will appear. So if you take any simple web application HTML page, the tabs which we are seeing are nothing but the headings, and this whole inside part we call it as body. So that's what we have written. What we have written, we have written a HTML, and then we have mentioned it as head, and we have given a title. So the title section, whatever we are applying it, it is applying there, and whatever we are specifying in the body, so the body content is being presented at the body. So I have given one simple paragraph, so it is appearing, right? So this is the basic of application. So maybe I may be wrong. So let's see. So let's take any web application. So I'm taking Wikipedia. So let's see. Now we just built one small basic application. Now what it takes to build this kind of application. So if you see, there are lots of tags, right? Definitely there would be lots of tags involved. So let's see the code behind this. So for to see any web page, all you need is Chrome or any browser developer tools. So to access developer tools, yesterday also I just talked about it. So you could just right click it. You have something called inspect. So Control Shift I is what using which we can explore the complete source code of it. If you see, so this is the code behind it. So if you see this, these are plain HTML. All browser runs, irrespective of the framework we use, it will be translated into basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only. So no matter the framework we use, underlying building blocks will be always HTML only for any platform. You build in any technology, anything, if you're running on a browser, it has to be HTML. So now if you see, they might have used any framework, we are not sure about it, but definitely if you it boils down to this basic tag called head, body, and this HTML tag, right? So if you see now, they had something called, we use something called, if you see carefully, so this is how the tags are there. And if I expand the body, they are used to separate each of the sections. They use something called div. So div is a separator. So if you see the page here, let me remove emulation. So if you see here, so this is a partition. So there's a left section, there is a right section. In two, see, this is one paragraph, this is one paragraph, there's a green and etc. So in order to separate a page, we use something called div tags. So div tags enables us to optimize the whole body. So now we have a body space, whole page. So how do we structure all our controls? So we have to organize it, and we have this limited space. We have to effectively use the limited space. So this concept is universal to any framework. Always we have the limited space itself. So the limited space, how effectively we use it, depends on different we call it layouts. So layouts allows us to better organize our data and better play with the data. So today, if you see in this Wikipedia example, they have used lots of div tags. But in frameworks we use, in UFA framework, we use different layouts. So these are plain layouts called div tags. But div tags are a problem with div tags is, um, see the problem with HTML also. So you can say, so HTML, we are able to do everything with HTML. Why we are going with frameworks? Okay, the problem is maintainability. So today, if I have to edit this particular text called German units dropping near some text, suppose maybe assume that I have to tweak this heading at least on this day, etc. So if you have to go and look at that code, it is very it's not maintainable and it's not readable. So definitely, if you plain HTML, if you use, the problem is you cannot actually maintain the code as quickly as possible. See, it takes lots of efforts to understand underlying where exactly the section is, etc. So there, it's very maintenance of plain building blocks is really tough. So what should we do? The next question comes is we have to follow some methodology. So there are like lots of methodologies. So SAP UFI uses something called MVC framework. So like I spoke earlier, so MVC is like we will structurize all the data at one place. We'll structure all the building blocks at one place called view, and all the logic at a separate place called controller. So we separate each and every block of them into different areas. Okay, I'll go there. So let me open one. So clear so far. See HTML, how it works and such.
Sir, how we will get to know that developer has used React or UI5 or Angular using that inspect button?
See, there are a couple of ways to identify. So within HTML, by default, the tag, looking at the tags, etc., there will be some containers there which will be used. Okay, so using that additional languages, etc., we can predict. But it's not always we can mask as well. So because sometimes knowing the complete source code without, if anybody views, see, that's like intellectual property. See, now if I can, if like I said, if I can view the source code of every possible content, I can make another Flipkart and another Netflix overnight, because there are like so many outside guys who can actually copy it instantly. Okay,
Hi.
so what we do is something called uglification and minification. So these are techniques which will encrypt the actual source code. Okay, all you see is basic building blocks, but key logic, anything is there, that will be encrypted. When I say encrypted, you cannot read the actual underlying code. Now the problem is they try to mask in which language, etc., it is built to, as a precaution. If I know that it is built on Angular or anything, I can exploit it, because if I know what are the loopholes in Angular version, particular version, assume that you haven't upgraded to you haven't used the latest patch, etc., so then I'll know the loophole. So to avoid that, they try generally mask which framework used, etc. But if there are ways to identify as well. So as a plain user, you may not be able to identify which framework it is built outright, but there are couple of ways to do. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So see, that is immaterial. See, frameworks are developer tools. They and allow us to provide some rich functionality and to develop very easily. It doesn't matter. See, if end user, which framework, as long as he's able to read his content, he's able to see what his expected things. Now if when I come to Netflix, all I expect is I am able to see smoothly whether my video is running properly or not. As long as whichever framework you're using, if it is running smoothly, user has no issue. So it's all developer headache. So which framework to use is all boils down to how comfortable you are with the tools available with. Now in UFI, we have seen some buttons, etc. Maybe you are not, you find that this is very basic and layman. You might, if you have worked with some other frameworks, etc., when you look at them, then you find that, okay, this is nice. So I think I have to build my new application in this particular framework. So most of the developer ecosystem will move to where there are like a rich set of controls. It's like features, they call it. Okay.
Hi, sir.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will build this simple resume first, then some more you know um, ideas we will try to talk about that MVC what I was referring to. So we'll do this, then we'll see our UF application and we'll just see how it is structured and why it is not structured here. So we'll try to understand. So the same application in Notepad we have done, so I can use a editor as well. So now here what I'll do is I just mm, before this, one more thing I just forgot to inform. So you have to see, as we do some exercises, it is recommended to create a folder structure in your GitHub. So in this GitHub, like I'm using every day for your practice to track yourself the concepts which accesses. So every day, just whatever access we are doing it, I'll try to mention it. You can create a folder this way. So you can say as Fiori UX or something, and you can create one folder called um, daily or etc. So what are thing you are trying to write. So at least if not, you can create one simple folder as this way. So this is my theory projects, etc. And within this, now you try to create subfolders called HTML. So one HTML this week we should be able to do one HTML, at least CSS, and one XS on JavaScript. Okay, so when we do this, we'll understand the skills better. Okay, then and already we have seen our first hello world. So UFA hello, at least one simple application, like at least you should be able to install the tools, and we have done the check, right? So that UFA simple application at least we should be able to do in this week. Okay, so JavaScript maybe will not possible, but we should be able to do this at least. So organize this way structure. Whatever you are doing access, try to put it here, and you can create your own repository, and all you can do is drag and drop. So why I'm saying this is you'll be losing track of if you are facing an issue etc in some exercises. We'll go to every day when you do some other exercise, the old exercise if you have to refer, it will be very clumsy. Okay, so here you can put yourself as your projects etc, and you can keep it public or private, your choice. And so if you are familiar with GitHub, fine. So after creating, it will give you one nice project. But here there's an option called upload an existing file. So if you click on this, manually we cannot create folders here. But if you have created a folder structure this way, and provided we have to place a content as well. If they are empty folders, that will not be uploaded. Now, if we created some simple application, so I'll put in HTML access in HTML. Okay, and any other subsequent projects, week 1 project, week 2 project, etc, will create different folder structure you can create yourself. And what are you are practicing, you can just what we can do is now drag and drop this folder. So if you drag and drop this way, whole folder structure will be created directly. So if you drop here, so it will create nice folder structure. So if there is only one file in one folder, so only that folder will be uploaded. So if you see here, we'll get organized way all the folder structure. But technically here there is no option to create folders, but you can create folders upfront and then you can drag and drop. So try to maintain this way, because as we go, we referring the different projects will be a tough task. And what are I will be doing, I'll anyhow place it in this repository called B03. So batch 03 is right. So here I'll upload it. So I'll also create the same folder structure and I'll just upload it. So HTML access, you can refer to HTML, CSS, etc. in this way. So I'll just drag and drop those folders here so that it will be easy. So you can also, whatever access you're doing, you can do this step. Okay, just I thought of mentioning this. So it's up to you. I mean, how you wanted to play around. Okay. So that is one thing. So now what I'm trying to do is I'll take one new file, same thing. So the instead of a text file, I'll use editor. So editor will give us nice you know auto suggestions. If you see the moment I'm typing, it always gives me auto suggestions. So it gives lots more flexibility to choose whenever any tags you want to remember, you need not remember. So all it does is, so now if I have to see body tag, so I'll do B and then control space. So it will if it doesn't find, so we can search for some more keywords. I think HTML suggestions it doesn't recognize UFA etc. Yeah, it is recognizing now. So if we type some more keywords, automatically it will try to recognize what we are trying to type. So editors will at least reduce our job to some extent. So the same thing now what we'll do is let's build one digital CV now. So in the heading, I'll keep it as resume. So this is our, so let's write it as resume, and then in the body, let me put one. We have something called highest heading, and for H1 to H6, there are like this we call it as heading tags. And all I'm doing is, if I'm opening with H1, I'm closing with H1. So I'll say this as my digital CV. Okay. So I'll write a paragraph again. So let me put to my name. Okay. Okay. And I'll give one more. I'll use some smaller font. So for small, see 1 is the highest font, and then 6 is very lowest font. So I can use H6. Or I'll say as objective. Let's learn UFI. Okay. I'll put my CV this way: to learn objectives to learn UFA. So I'll just when I click on save, in the desktop, what I'll try to do is I'll just try give it a name as resume.html. And here in the drop down, if you're using an editor, it gives you which programming language, etc. If you're Notepad, you can select all files, but if you're using an editor, make sure to select HTML. If not, it will not be able to, because editor has supports multiple languages. So make sure the same file in using editor, if I'm doing it, I can save it this way. So now if I open this, so this is how it shows. So digital CV, and it looks not so nice. So what I'll do is I'll try to add some basic CSS tags. I'll try to use, and let's see how we are going to use. So in the code snippets, I created some images. I have it. So what I'll do is, so I'm taking one background image. So there's some plain background image. Okay. So there's a plain background image which I'm taking, and then some my profile pic. To show a profile pic, I'm taking one image. You can take your own pic as well. So what I'll do is, so remember wherever you have your what do you call the application, wherever you're saying it, make sure that in the same folder your both files also should be available. So I'm taking a background image and I'm taking my personal image as well. So we are going to use this in our application. So what I'll do is, for this body, I'll apply the background tag. So we have, this is my, I'll just path, etc. Let me put it. So style tag is for inline CSS to declare CSS. This is a CSS tag. So HTML, to add some style, what we use is we use the called keyword called style. So for adding background color, we have something called background color. If you want to use just a background color, you can use background color. And if you want to use a background image, you can use background image. So in this case, if I, instead of this, if I want to use a background color, I have something called property called background color. So let me go with background color first. So and here for comments, we have something called this is how the comments we write. Exclamation mark will be there, and with angle brackets. So with angle brackets, if you put this way, so this is called as comments. For comments, this is how we have to define it. Okay. So let me put first instead of image. Okay. So just to avoid any typos, I'm just um, using this tag directly. So all we have to do is so the editor has some flexibility. So see, now instead of background color, I can just cite as red. So editor automatically it gives us some more flexibility. So here now I have set as red. So if we reload this, so it shows in red color, right? So see, this is like CSS, because CSS tag background color. If we put an image, you have to give the image path. And if you want to color, so here one more advantage is you can in the editor, it allows us to select palette will be directly available. You can choose a color of our choice, and it would be way easy to change the color. So easily now we can type it a color, or we can just use, and after coming here you can just reload this. So you'll be get color choice as well. You can use a background image or you can use a color. Okay. So I'll make it more so for colors also, there are like three general values are supported in any programming language. That is also important to understand. So one, we have something called RGB, hex values, and HSL values. Okay. So this is also important to understand. So plain HTML, CSS exercise, etc. So in this topic, what we have to remember, one is colors. So yeah, 1 second, just give me 1 minute and just come back. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a courier and they insisted to come directly. So we okay. I was just talking about us. Okay. So am I audible, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Extremely sorry. Oh, so yes, I was okay. Color. So in case of HTML tag, etc., or in when we are using frameworks also, there generally we use different forms of colors. Like one is RGB notation, and another is HSL notation, another is hex notation. So hex notation is very popular way of giving it because it has around 16 million combinations of colors we can use if you use hex code. Hex code will start with hash, so and it will be 6 digits. So if you have 0006 zeros, then it will be bottom of the spectrum. So simple way. This is why I'm saying this is uh, complete application look of the application will be defined based on our in general colors as such. So if you select any of this, any paint application, etc., if you click on it, you'll generally find two values. So this is RGB. So this color uniquely color to identify. We see if RGB notation starts with 0 to 255, the hex value it starts with the hash followed by 6 digits. So hex notation, if we have to use, we have to use the color in this case background color as this way property. So like I was using, so there is a syntax difference. So background color will be the same, the tag will be the same, so tag would be the same, but the color when we are giving it, if we are giving an RGB notation, so make sure to give this way. So 0 to 0 comma 0 comma 0 is the syntax for RGB color defined, and it is varies from here to RGB. uh, so 255 to 255 is the max we can give for individual. So red component how much from varies from 0 to 255, and green component varies from 0 to 55, and based on that the colors will be defined. And similarly the HSL hue, saturation, and luminosity. So that's some countries they follow HSL, but traditionally we follow RGB and hex values. But if you prefer to follow hue, saturation, limit, etc., so even that also has its own values, and we can follow HSL as well. And for this typically I'm not I have to just refer once again because I generally do not use HSL, but HSL is also one more notation. So hex generally we use popularly, and this if we have to give a color now, we can give hash followed by this will be black, and hash FFF would be white color. So FFF 6F if you write, then this is white color, this is black color, and in this case this is black, and accordingly we have different colors. So whenever you see any color, then either it should be represented in RGB, red value, green value, blue value, this way, three different values, or it should be a single value. So this is how colors are defined in general in any development. Whenever we have to specify color, we have to follow this standard. So this is one interesting point to remember. Now, if we automatically, if we they specify also here in this case, they are specifying the color syntax in RGB value, and this is like uh, how much brightness, etc. Some additional frameworks will have some additional properties. So this is optional property which they are provided, but technically only these three values are sufficient. If I do not have this value as well, so it should not technically affect. So this will still be valid. So some see they have added some more property called RGBA. So those are like improvised forms, but basic form is RGB. Okay, so each framework some the other uh, features they try to pack in. So if you see some more instant intensity level to have it, they had some percentage value called A, and then they provided some value. But technically speaking, RGB is the basic one, which is sufficient for specifying colors. And same thing like I was mentioning it, so I'll use the same background color tag for some other area where this section for h1, what I'll do is instead of h1 it looks too big, and I'll use h3 to make my heading more nice. And instead here let's use some hex value, so hash, and I'll just pick this hex value which we have here. Okay, so I'll try to copy this hex value, and there are some color wheel etc applications as well which will generally give, or if we can use inbuilt here. So this is how we can give. So if you want to change also, if you hover it automatically it will recognize. So this is one syntax and this is one syntax. So I think this doesn't look good at all. Let me take some lighter look. This is how it should look. So technically speaking, this is how our background color. So there is a background color. This is a text color. I can use text color. So if here it automatically suggests all the options as well. Creation color. I think it's not a good nice color. There are lots of color, but I think background color is okay. Background color is basic one. No, I think we use background color. So these tags we have to W3 schools with the reference. There will be lots of tags, but basic tags generally we try to use it, and background image as well. We have I think border color. I check. So we can play around with the respective tags as such. I think it is not visible. I think border property I have to specify.
I think colors come under font, I believe.
No, font is the style how we use it, right? That is one. So we have background color, but text color where there would be some other
Text color,
property as such.
I mean, comes under fonts usually.
Okay, we can just refer to that as well. So we can just fall back here itself. So we have styles or formatting, etc. Yeah, here this uses text color. We can check out. Yeah, style. It's let me see. We can refer. I think plain color itself will do. We need not to specify any text color, etc. So I think the tag represents. So font size, font family. We generally when we use this to reference it. Now font family will use the monotype cursive or Verden or type Roman, etc. I think just plain color itself will do. We need not to unnecessarily. Uh, so that syntax as such, we just have to play around and we have to see. So these are not very. We will use other different tools for plain scenarios. Just for illustration, we are trying to understand. So I think now it should show. So I think simple tag is color itself is sufficient. And if you want to apply to the background, we can apply for the background. So idea is this is how we use different color syntaxes when we have to apply to our code, right? So if whenever we are stuck, just you can go back to fall back to W3 schools and you can refer to there some for some basic tags around. Okay, and
So Ramana,
yes.
for UI5, do we directly give the colors in the code itself? Because for the background that I come from, usually all the colors are controlled by the themes that we use, and we do configure all the colors using theme designer, but never directly on the
Yes.
UI itself.
We use theme designer tool only. So there we use something called concept called classes. So, but why we are trying to understand is, so at the base level, if we are applying it, so there are like hierarchy the property. So now if we specify it, so we use theme designer tool only for the all the UFI applications. So we
Okay,
generally do not give any
I
CSS.
okay, I got that. So you just giving us a background on how things
Correct.
work, right?
Correct,
Yeah, okay,
correct.
got it,
Yes, yes.
got it.
So these are like basic sessions, how in deep inside any applications, how it works, but they are like automated mostly by tools. Okay. So today and tomorrow we are just trying to understand the basic ground level how things are working. That's it. So these are we can completely skip these sessions also. These are not at all relevant or to day-to-day building. But we are just trying to understand if at all we have to do it, how do we do it? So that's the whole idea of this exercise.
I got that. Yeah. So I was just trying to understand whether we directly use this in UI5.
Yes, yes. No, no. It's not at all recommended to use CSS because like simple funda, 13,000 apps, SAP's motto is to have consistent color options as well. So what we have to do is if we design one theme, it should be applied to all the apps. Okay. Now what we are trying to do is each application we are trying to define different colors using CSS. That is also possible, but the problem is different user will have a different color experience and it is not what SAP doesn't want. So that's what the guidelines suggest. So they by default they're shipping they call it as Quartz theme for Fury 3, and for Fury 1 they used to call it as Blue Crystal theme. And the standard Blue Crystal theme, according to customer choice using theme designer tool, we modify and tweak it. So if you want, if you're some Reliance or customer, he will prefer a blue background. Whereas if you are Aditya Birla or someone, he might be preferred some brown color background. So we using theme designer tool will look and feel of all the apps we try to control using single tool called theme designer tool. But indirectly inside also inner working it uses CSS itself. So that's the what we are as a layman we need to just understand. Okay, so if we understand this, how effectively you can use when you use the tool, you'll understand, you can relate all these concepts in a much more better way. So I'll just describe some more things in coming exercise as well. So okay, that was the idea. And we can use let me use the background as well. So in this case, so background image, let's use some background image. Use a background image, just so the background image is a tag. URL we can specify the path. So if you are hanging in a folder, use the slash and then provide the path of the path. So in this case I just placed a background image on my desktop, so I have given background. So make sure to give the right extension as well, so then we should automatically see the background. So be it color or image, this is how we'll apply. Correct? Clear? And now let me use some more popularly used tags are image tag and hyperlink tags. So in most of the basic structure, these are the things which we generally find. So image tag, I can just slash img. So you can specify. No, it's getting. It's already in my code. Okay. Img slash. So img, so the same, we have something called source, and then we have to specify image. If at all we have to just specify the path of it. So I think my profile pic.jpg I have given. So we can use image tag. If we want to place instead of background, now we are trying to place the image directly. So it's like pic.jpg is the file. So if I specify it this way, image tag, so I can use my image. Now, if you see the image, it's appearing too much big. So we wanted to have a passport size photograph. So what we have to do is we have to specify height and width dimensions so that we can control. And I wanted to place it on the extreme right instead of at the, where are the position we have specified. For that, we use again simple CSS tags to achieve that. So what I'll do is I have something called 150 150. It's the one I have play around with the height and width, which will be better. And then I'm just trying to use there is CSS tag called float to the right. So if you say left, right, etc., so accordingly it will position our tag. So our photo, if I want to position on the left, I can specify float as left. If you specify float as right, it will specify on the extreme right. There is no, if the image is failed to load, etc., I'm alternately one text I'm asking it to display called upload picture. And now to specify it, once we have this simple tag, let's see how we are going to have. So now it came with more smaller aspect. So if I want to have to the right resume, generally we have it on the right. So if I specify as the right, what I'll do is I'll just reduce the width if required. Yes. So if it will nicely, it will, I think it's zoomed to very high. So 100, if we have in the 100% zoom, so it nicely appears on the right side of our image. So so basic tags what we use is headings. For heading tags we can use. For regular paragraph we can use paragraph tags, and for images we can use image tag. And one more tag which we popularly use is href. So link tag. So what link tag does, href or link tag, what it does is basically hyperlinks. So if I have to use any hyperlink, okay, is it always? So link, if href, if I have to give, so I can specify some URL. In this case, I can say my text dot in some website name. I can specify, and I can sorry. So I was using UFA tag. This is not a HTML tag, anchor tag way they call it in HTML. I'm used to UFI, so I'm using in UFI we call it as link tag, but in HTML we call it as anchor tag. So A is the keyword we use, and href is a source of the URL destination. We have to see specify the website, and between this you have to just specify the text. So I'll say Fiori UX in this case, Fiori UX. Okay, and you can likewise you can specify all your now if you want to give a label etc, you can give a paragraph just before it. So I'll specify a paragraph tag. It will say my personal website. Some text I'm just trying to give, and then I can just repeat the same structure to specify this is my GitHub, this is my, if I'm using my GitHub, so we have created our GitHub, right? So I can just use my GitHub URL and I can specify that this is my GitHub URL. Okay, so I'll just specify this as my GitHub URL. Okay, check out my code, or I can say check out my code or my works, or you can say something. Okay, this way. So you can use your own way of specifying it. Let's see how it turns out to be. So we can specify this way. So there are like more effective ways to do things, but plain and simple idea is basically whenever we most commonly use these tags. There are lots of other style tags etc involved, but basic tags are body tag, heading tag. For titles we use h1 to h6, and for regular text we use paragraph tags, and for for hyperlinks we use anchor tag. So these are the basic tags which you need to understand to build any of the application. If you go back now again to Wikipedia, if you see either they are hyperlink tags or these are the whole paragraph tags, and mostly it's organized using layouts. So all the content is either paragraph tags etc. So it uses all these building blocks, so image etc. So if you see anything, it's either of these tags only. But how effectively it turns out is all about how we are organizing the content within the application. So if I play around for some more time, I could actually organize it in a much more simpler way, as this way. Okay, so you can play around a little bit and you can make your own digital CV. Right, so this is about HTML exercise, and now I'll just go back. Clear, right? Any questions so
Um, no, I'm good.
far? Okay. So we are just understand. See, these are like good to know things. That's it. And
Sir,
well,
that like
yes,
how did you take that image to upper margin, sir? Like it was
on the
only
top.
yes, on the top. It was only on the right side, right? Now
Correct.
it is
Yes.
aligned. How do you make that?
Yes, yes. So here what I was using is we are using something called style tag. So style tag, if I remove this style tag, so it will straight away, if I just I'll remove this tag, if you see, I'll save it. Now if I go back to my application, I think this is so if I reload it, it will come to here. So where I position the image tag, if I place it on the last, it will come at the last. If I place it on the top, it will come on the top. But to position it related to it, there are like multiple ways to do it. So one way is using CSS, where I specified it a tag called flow to the right. Okay, so this tag allowed me to position it so now if I have to want it on the extreme top of it, I can cut this and I can place it on just to my name next to it. If I have to have it, I will just place this tag there. Okay,
Okay, okay, sir.
now it will automatically come there on the top. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay, so it's just basic tags we can play around. You can, once you start playing around with tags, so there are like lots of other cool some you can just go to this CSS section and you can play around with some borders etc also. So they'll give you some borders etc, colors, images etc. So if you more you want to play, you can play on with the tables. But if tables this is very outdated one, nobody uses HTML tables. These are very outdated, but if you want to play around, you can play around. They're like more nice controls to achieve tables. But to create using HTML tables also we can create etc. So here they give you some simple headings. Now whatever we discussed, h1 to h6 etc, simple access, how to use paragraph, how to use style etc, they will explain you nicely, and you can just visit to check for some other properties etc, and you can add to your use case. So try to stitch it into some use case. Now in this case, I have taken a digital CV. Maybe you can try with some broadband bill. Maybe you can try with some of your existing bills, any of your postpaid mobile bills, etc. You take any use case and try to use this tag so that you can create whatever you wanted to have an idea to present. So that way we'll learn more. So now you ask the question to put it on right. So if you take any real-time use case, then you'll truly understand what are the problems involved when to choose such a design, etc. Maybe you might, for a bill, we might need some borders, nice borders, outside borders. You can apply borders using CSS. So anything comes to style, CSS is the go-to place. Anything comes to textual information, etc., building blocks, HTML is the go-to place. So these are the two things we have to remember. Clear?
So will we make use of CSS in UI5?
We can use, so we'll but it's not recommended to use plain way. I'll just explain why what's the problem with using CSS. So problem with CSS is SAP framework has lots of classes. There are like thousands of classes. So in tomorrow I'll just explain what are classes. So CSS also we have something called concept called classes. Okay, the CSS classes are like standard way of top to down specifying the colors. So for heading tags, always use this color. For always, whenever there is a text color, always use this class. So CSS color combination, etc., can be shipped in the form of classes. So SAP framework has thousands of classes. So the problem with if we are modifying any of the CSS, it will affect your the theme which is shipped with the standard theme which is shipped. So maybe our Fiori application current, if you see, I'll show that one quick way. So if you see the design out there, I think so we have seen this, right? So this is nothing but say this uses Bailey's theme. Okay, so if you see there are like some colors on the screen, correct? So all these colors are because of some standard CSS class. So beneath this applications framework, SAP has shipped lots of colors. Whenever we are using in our application some standard colors, it will override those behaviors, and the user experience will be affected. So that's the reason SAP always suggests do not ever try to hard code CSS colors. Do not ever use CSS. It always recommends to use CSS classes, but not CSS colors or anything. So we cannot use our own CSS, but we have to use SAP shipped CSS. So then where do we find SAP defined CSS? That should be our actual question. So I'll discuss anyhow more about it. But if you want it now itself, then I can show you that. So you can go to ufi.sap.com, and in theme design also you'll find all these CSS classes, and you come to this tool section. So one tool we use for managing CSS is UI theme designer tool. So this tool is exclusively meant for managing CSS in for UEFI applications, but that is not one we are interested now. So this is something called theme parameter toolbox. This is the one which shows you all the standard SAP CSS classes. So if you see here, what I'm talking makes sense in a while. So this is SAP UI brand. So if I have to use blue, instead of specifying color as blue, I'll specify class as SAP UI brand. So I can copy this, I can use it in my UEFI application code. Then it will not affect anywhere because this is standard class. So if anybody is using UI theme designer tool and modifying the color, as I'm using this class, that color will automatically change in my application as well. You're able to relate to it?
Hi, sir.
Okay, so we should use in UFA framework, we have to use CSS classes, not hard code any CSS syntax. Now, right now, what we are doing is we are writing our own CSS, right? That is hard coding. Okay, we should not do it that way. That is not ideal practice. But for our use case understanding, I just was demonstrating that way. But for UFA frameworks, we use only CSS classes. I'll explain how we to use and when to use, etc. CSS classes. But these are the CSS classes I'm talking about. So they're like thousands. See, if you see, if I scroll, and there are like lakhs of classes are there. Not lakhs, at least there at least thousands of CSS classes are there. So based on scenario, we have to use. So now just tell me, for each application, can you modify? Will you spend time to modify each of these colors, or will you focus on writing the logic?
Hi, sir. Writing the logic.
So obviously, so this work, everything legwork is removed using theme designer tool. So that is the whole objective of simplification. Okay,
Hi,
we'll we'll get there. So for now, we just need to understand this much. Okay,
okay.
so Okay, so then I'll just, as we are talking about this, I'll just talk quickly show. So now, so far we have seen Fury 2.0, etc. So in Fury 3, they introduced something called quads theme. So this is how light and dark theme. Now in Fury 3, this is how our applications looks. So if you see, it really looks all your applications now instead of just tiles. If you see, if you notice any difference, you have lots of other way. See, this is not an overview page. Fury 3 has something called UI cards. So this is a new concept using which we can place instead of, if you in Fury 2 we have already seen the demo in the first day, right? So it just has tiles, plain tiles. So this way only tiles, but now more than we can add tables, we can add directly Slack integration, etc. I think these are like proposed ones. I'm not sure, it's not yet rolled out to all users. It is being rolled out gradually, and something this way will be seeing in the latest release of Fury 3. Okay. So this is what the standard theme. See, all this collection of classes what we have now. So those are shipped as one single theme. So end user can simply select this theme, and let me show you. I think you are already familiar with it. Just you may not have related it this way. Okay. So I have given yesterday, you have, if you have created your ES5 account system, then the moment you log in using your ES5 credentials, then you should be able to access this launchpad as well. So this is Fury 2.0. So where we have plain simple tiles, but in Fury 3.0 we are going to see much more, this way. So we are going to see nice applications this way, where we'll have not only tiles but some more analytics, etc. we can accommodate on the screen. So this is like more improvisation they are trying to do. And to all these CSS classes themes, end user can simply control from settings tab from the appearance. If you see, Fury 2.0 uses Billy's theme. There are like two versions of Fury 2.0, Billy's and Billy's Deep. Okay, these are like standard way. Some other for visual, for they who cannot color visualization cannot do. Generally, for those purpose, always high contrast colors will be shipped. But in general, this is the theme. So one is light flavor and another is dark flavor. So these are the two themes which are shipped in Fury 2.0. So if at all we are modifying, when the CSS classes we are modifying using theme designer tool, the base theme is Billy's theme for Fury 2.0. Okay, so these are the two flavors. In Fury 3.0, something called quads light and quads dark are introduced, and quads light and dark will appear in this way. So if you see in this already, the theme is Fury 3.0 theme has been provided in this case. So quads theme will look this way. Okay, so these are all nothing but our CSS classes. If you see, this is how our Fury 3.0 apps looks like, but still some more features are yet to be once they appear. This is how our latest Fury 3 looks in terms of theme. So these all are based on our CSS only. Because of CSS only, we are able to achieve this. See, simple click, we are able to change the complete look of all our applications. Inside application also, everything will be changed. It's not application dependent. It's independent of the application, the whole theme. Okay. So this is all about theme. And Fury 1 uses Blue Crystal, Fury 2 uses Billy's, Fury 3 uses Quads. These are the three base themes SAP has shipped. Okay, these are collection of CSS classes. Fine, I'll just move on to for one more
Tamina,
section.
when
Please.
we change the theme, say depending on, say we are using Fury 2 and we change the theme, so do we like base the theme on the standard provided one in this Fury 2, the Billy's theme, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So you take that and then customize it as per the client requirement.
Correct, correct. So we cannot create from scratch anything. We have to use always a base theme. So for Fury 2.0 applications, base theme is Billy's. So you have to start with Billy's theme, and you have to tweak the colors. So using theme designer tool. So that is the only way currently SAP Fury supports. There is, we cannot create any our own theme. So if you wanted to create your own see individual application, if you are not deploying onto this launchpad and you want to have a standalone application like independent application, then you can play around with whatever theme you want. But if you want your theme options to be effective to all the apps in the SAP ecosystem which your client is using, then always it's recommended to use base theme as Baileys for Fury 2.0 apps.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So that's best practice. See, it's idea is we should not mess up any of the standard way SAP shipping. So if we use as is, all it affects is only the colors. So instead of one color, we are changing the color. We are nobody is actually writing any single line of code in this using theme designer tool. So that way we are actually not messing up with the standard SAP classes, like the classes which I showed. We are not messing up with the classes. So if we have, what exactly means by is, now we have written the code. So earlier I have written some text color, so that is messing up the code. Right. So if someone messes up with the standard class, all the applications will go for a toss. That SAP doesn't want. So it is giving a tool called theme designer tool, and it's asking, boss, if you want to change color, play with this tool. It will not affect any of you. It looks odd colors, that's it. So it doesn't affect any of the code. So that is a advantage of using theme designer tool. Okay. So right. So yes, I wanted last topic for today. I just wanted to talk about one concept called MVC. So UFA framework, when we talk about UFA framework, there are like three concepts. So we talk about MVC concept, and then we talk about single page applications, and then we talk about bootstrap. So these are the three concepts. When we talk about framework, everybody should know these three concepts. What is MVC? What are single page applications? What is bootstrap? Okay, so today we'll just talk about MVC, and tomorrow we'll talk about single page application bootstrap. Okay, so these are very essential concepts when anyone talks about framework. So why it makes this much of significance is the our whole project structure will be organized. So I just talked about in layman terms, but so in a if I have to present it in a some diagrammatic way, so all are building block. Now HTML I said as building block, right? For in UFA the same building block is XML. So but is it confined to XML? No, we can write the UI building blocks in plain HTML also. We can write in JSON as well, in XML also, and JavaScript also. So that building block which now we talked about, now we have built our resume, right? The same thing in UFA if we have to build, we can use HTML also. But so like I said, the problem is readability and maintainability. Due to those issues, uh, first wave of apps generally they tried with HTML, but they found it's too complex. Because if we have seen in our Fury apps library, there was back some old application which was released in 2013 Q4, and were lots of releases every quarter. Some releases are there, some new features were being packed, and maintaining the code with HTML is very cumbersome. So noticing the challenges, what SAP has suggested is, let's not use HTML, instead let's use XML. So they use JavaScript as well, and they found it problem. Another problem with JavaScript is logic also. If you write in JavaScript, and UI building blocks also you write in JavaScript, the problem is which is a building block, which is a logic. Again, that's a confusion. Okay, due to these twin challenges, SAP has opted XML. So XML flexibility is, it looks like HTML, but at the same time, it can define how many ever. So now say same button, if it has to define, it can create its own button, it can ship it. Like how the CSS classes it has shipped it. It is shipping lots of controls. Every day, one of the new control SAP is providing us. That number is increasing day by day. If you see, I said as on date we have 850 controls. So if you take plain HTML, hardly there are like 30 or 40 controls. Today we discussed just about around 5 controls, right? See, if you see, when I say control, nothing but these tags, h tag or body tag, etc. So these things we call it as in HTML hardly we have 40 or so, that's it. Okay, but in CSS there are lots of properties. So I'm not talking about CSS, I'm just talking about HTML. So likewise, see the syntax wise, UFA framework, the XML tags looks similar to HTML, but they are not HTML. See, now if I take our project, previous project, which we have written yesterday or before, um, so our first application which we have selected, I'm just selecting that. So if you see, what I'm trying to say is, this is what MVC is all about. So in MVC, how do we understand here is, in the view now, if at all we have to write, there are like 3 sections to it. So all the libraries, this is in when you use a framework, we load all our libraries. So necessary like if you are familiar with C or any in Java or anything, so they on the top of the head they'll define their libraries, which all libraries are used in this particular application. So in case of HTML, there are no libraries loading. Okay, those are itself a building block. I had talked about we have sap.m libraries, we have sap.layout libraries. So we might be end up using multiple libraries. So we should inform which library we are using to the runtime. So for that purpose, what we do is we define on the top which libraries we are using in this particular view. So in this case, I'm using m library. So I'm saying XML NS stands for namespace. So namespace sap.m. So namespace is blank. So if I have to load any library, the syntax I follow is XML namespace followed by, if I specify as L, I'm giving any name I can give it, and I can load that library. Now in this case, I want to use, instead of div tag etc., which are used in HTML, the similar equivalent we call it as layouts in UFA framework. So sap UI.layout is a library I have to load, and in order to use this library controls, I gave a name called L. So by default, any tag, now app is m tag. So if I have to use a layout now, I'll the syntax I use is L hyphen, and then I'll say horizontal layout. Okay, horizontal layout. Okay, so this is the syntax. So L again, and then horizontal layout. So I can just give this way. So see, any library, if you are using it, so any third party library, the namespace you have to prefix it just before the tag. So this way runtime will understand that this is a library, this is a new library, and this is out of m library we are using it. So cross libraries, when you're using it, you have to use this notation called namespace followed by the keyword which represents that library. So this name can be anything. You can define u, if you are defining u etc., what are name custom namespace you're defining, but make sure to use the same. So it's the same. So if you see starting tag, if I'm using it, I'm using the same ending tag. So but for other libraries we use this colon, else for regular tags we don't use it. So this is for this one. But simple tags like m, if we are just using only m library tag, then we need not to define any of this naming space convention straight away. Now if I use how to use label and text, what I do is text, there's a instead of h1p paragraph tag in UFI, we have something called text. So I'll just if I open with text, I'll close with text. So that just this, the syntax, the way we are writing, these are called as XML tags. There is no difference. They are similar to HTML. Only thing is these are like user defined. Now SAP has coined this word called text. Text represents to enter text. Whereas HTML, it is defined by the W3 consortium, who are the universal standards defining body, who define that P stands for paragraph and etc. Whereas here full forms in SAP has preferred, instead of short text, it clearly says if it is button, it gives nice name called button. These are like user defined. So custom naming conventions, if you give, those are those can be achieved using XML language. So SAP used XML to define. So forget about the concept of XML, but if you have to write code the same, you can try doing the same exercise using UFA. If at all we have to use, we can use button tag and label tag and text tag for representing various sections. And similarly for hyperlink, you can use something called link tag, and link tag allows you to give hyperlinks. Okay, so here we can specify link. We have something called text attribute. So this is, we call it as properties. So I can give a link text here name, and I can specify what exactly I need to specify. And so this is how I can say control space, and you can check it out as well. So I can specify my website, personal website. Okay. So how do we know? So I'll talk in detail, but so generally this is how the tags syntax we write. So we'll do in detail in tomorrow's class, but to give a high level idea, so this is how in the, if the same syntax we have to write in UFA, so this is how our syntax looks like. Clear? So I'm just trying to compare. If you write in HTML, that's how it looks. If you write in UFA, this is how it looks. So just give a visualization. Okay, now in this structure, now this view we are writing in this XML, similar to the logic we write in directly JavaScript logic. So we have something called functions. So tomorrow I'll explain more about JavaScript and CSS. But to understand the logic we write, use JavaScript. And our complete model. So MVC. M stands for model, where here all our OData surveys, it will be in terms of JSON. So JSON or XML. Previously we have seen, right? So the idea behind all the whole structure is model is OData. In our case, it uses OData protocol, and the view it uses XML, and the controller it uses JavaScript. So in our whole project structure is organized in this form of a model view controller. So this is a organized way so that it avoids and it enables us to build scalable applications. I think till here, if we understand, we are good. So this is various layers which are the programming ways we use to give a clear idea. So I was just explaining this. Clear?
Yeah.
So I think you can do this HTML access today. I'll just post this content there. And tomorrow we'll see some CSS and JavaScript access, and then we can wrap up the web basics as such. Okay, and there like some JavaScript. There were some interesting concepts are there. Here HTML you need not to learn anything. CS also you need not to learn anything, but JavaScript you have to learn must, because the logic is the key. For writing the logic is all. There is no tool to guide you for writing logic. There are tools, drag and drop tools for adding the layouts, buttons, etc. But there is no tool to you. If you do not know tags, also it's fine. You can use drag and drop tools, but you should know how to write logic. So nobody can help us in terms of writing logic. So I'll just give try to like how we have seen some. I'll just 5-6 concepts are there, very essential concepts. No matter which framework you're using, those concepts are always essential. So we'll talk about those concepts in tomorrow's class. Okay. Okay. I think
Okay.
if you hang any issues, you can just stay back, or we can meet tomorrow. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So I will see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Sure.
Sir,
Bye.
actually, I'm having the issue with that EVS code, sir.